Hello and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight in game as well. In this series I like to use your suggestions that you leave me down in the comment section below of monsters that you'd like to see me draw or talk about. So if you have a monster that you are itching to see me make a video about, then please make sure to leave that down below in the comments, because I read every single one and I add it to my to-draw list no matter what, and then I hand that to-draw list over to my patrons over on Patreon, who at every single level, whether they are tipping the price of a cup of tea per month, a single dollar per month, all the way up to the very highest levels, all get a chance to vote on which monsters they see in what order. They get to control which monsters we see next, what ones I research next. So if that sounds appealing to you, if you'd like to help support the channel and help me make these videos for you every single week, you want to leave a little tip for me and also have more control over the kind of content that you get from me, then I'd urge you to head over to Patreon. Anywho, the gentleman who suggested today's video topic is a fellow YouTuber and a long-term friend of the channel. You've probably seen a couple of his videos as well, AJ Pickett. If you've not seen his lore videos, I would very highly recommend them. They're great fun, very in-depth. They're an absolute hoot. So please check out AJ's channel as well. And AJ has presented me with a unique challenge. He's requested to see one of his favourite demon lords, who, before this video, I had never heard of, called Miska the Wolf Spider. In particular because he said that there's not much artwork out there for Miska, and yeah, I did a lot of research and found very little in the way of artwork for Miska. So I was very excited to get a chance to do this one. Anyway, I've waffled enough, we should just get started. So Miska the Wolf Spider is a lesser known demon lord and was once the Prince of Demons, a title that now belongs to the Demogorgon. And it first appeared in 2nd edition in the Dungeon Master's Guide in 1989 and was later expanded upon through Dragon Magazine issue 224 and an adventure called The Rod of Seven Parts, published in 1996, named after a mythical artifact, a weapon crafted by the forces of law and used in an ancient battle to imprison Miska in an endless abyss. Miska is described as being a large, armoured spider with a human male torso, home to 4 arms, and 2 snarling wolf heads, one on either side of a human head. And that's literally all the description I could find for this creature. So aesthetically, that gives me an absolute ton to work with. I think we can make something suitably horrible out of that description. I particularly like the idea of the wolf heads. I'm going to play around with this. I want to try and make the wolf heads like mandibles. You know, we're talking spiders here as well. A very mandibular creature. So, wolf heads as mandibles, does that make sense? Like they split apart to reveal a human skull underneath. Something like that. As I'm sure you can guess by now, I'm having to make up a lot of these aesthetics as I go because Miska has not appeared officially since 2nd edition. And it's kind of clear why as well, not to diminish the impact of Miska or the importance of this creature or how cool it is. Well, as my wife said when I described this creature to her, quote, "Damn, it's clear that they're throwing a lot at this one." And yeah, the concept is really crazy to be honest, especially for a Prince of Demons that isn't the Demogorgon and isn't a Prince of Madness. But you know what? It gives me even more to play with. And there are a few homebrew sets of stats for this creature if you'd like to use those, but I had a little bit of trouble digging them up, and they were all extremely powerful as homebrew tends to be, and no doubt this creature is extremely powerful also. It once used to lead the armies of the demons as a general of sorts, so it needs to be extraordinarily powerful. But a lot of the homebrews that I was seeing were sort of making this thing a challenge rating 30 odd creature, which unless you're dealing with Tiamat seems a little too powerful. Bearing in mind I've covered things like Demogorgon and Yinogu, who were both in the sort of challenge rating 24 to 26 bracket, and they were unsettlingly potent and also demon lords. As I say, Demogorgon also held the title of Demon Prince after this creature did. So what I thought might be a little bit more fun is if I put some easy to access stats together on my website and kind of base the challenge rating of this creature around other demon lords that we can find in Xanathar's Guide. So keeping it around that 24 to 26 mark. I ended up settling on challenge rating 26 for this creature. But yeah, if you would like my version of Miska, obviously if you have your own version or you're using a homebrew that you like, this isn't the canon, this isn't like the official version. This is just what I thought seemed suitable, and that's on my website under the Homebrew tab, and I will leave a link to that in the description as well. You don't need to be a patron, you don't need to do anything for that. It's a totally free monster stat block for you. All I ask is if you do use it, make sure to let me know how it goes. I would love to see how this creature fares in one of your campaigns, what dastardly things it gets up to, or even if you've used Miska before in previous campaigns, if you are a veteran of 2nd edition for example, let me know how Miska appeared in your campaigns then. I like to deal in stories. Now my next thought, unfortunately, was if I'm going to homebrew this, I need to know a lot more about the kit that this creature had in previous editions. Usually when I'm homebrewing something, I have an old 80s edition of Dragon magazine or some previous editions. I can find something online, whatever. However, I wasn't able to find anything online like that. I don't own 2nd edition, and I never played it. I pretty much hopped from 1st to 4th to 5th, and I couldn't find the initial stat block for this creature. I could find its spawn. It's supposed to be the progenitor of a series of demonic spider beings called wolf spiders that are literally, as they say on the tin, a wolf's head on top of a spider's body, but they definitely weren't Miska. So I think I'm going to use Demogorgon as a template here. Demogorgon being the only other Prince of Demons that I'm holding the stats of. And I'm going to look through the other demon lords in Xanathar's Guide to put our horrific beautiful bug boy on your tabletop. We also know that, as I mentioned in my Ettercap Monster Monday, that druids that eventually ended up evolving and mutating into the Ettercap species were inspired by a demonic spider, and these demonic spiders are said to be the offspring of Miska in this case. So my homebrew is likely to be a fusion of a hugely potent Ettercap and the Demogorgon, so hold on to your hats because we're about to get really, really horrifying and weird. So the demon lords in Xanathar's Guide have themes. As I've said, the Demogorgon, for example, is the demon prince, the demon lord of madness, insanity. Nogu is demon lord of slaughter. I realise now that I've been saying Xanathar's Guide when I meant to say Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes every single time, so hopefully I'll go back and note that in, but if I don't, just realise that I've remembered that now. Zugtmoy is the demon lord or princess of fungi, of rot and decay. Orgus is the prince of undeath. Grazd is the demon lord of selfishness, of beauty, and of hubris. And Fraz Urblu is a demon lord of deception. And I was able to find out about Miska's deeds as the former prince of demons and this sort of leader of a demonic military, the consort of a queen of demons, and its appearance, but not really what it represented. If it had a representation. What was this thing the prince of? What was its core tenet? I had no idea. I didn't really want to say that this was a demon lord of spiders because we have that already in things like Lolth. But this is the wolf spider. If Yeenoghu is sort of tied intrinsically to gnolls, their creation, and Miska has these elements of both a wolf and a spider about them, then wolves and spiders need to play an enormous part. That's still not what this thing is a demon prince of. And then I thought, being hunted. Those two things are immensely predatory, and spiders, as I've mentioned on many occasions, I am hugely phobic of. So I was thinking perhaps this creature is a nocturnal hunter and is the demon lord of perhaps fear or inspiring phobia. That definitely gave me a lot to work with here. I wanted to capture the idea of being lost, of being surrounded. I don't know if you've seen the film The Grey with Liam Neeson. The idea of being surrounded by wolves you can't see, just knowing that these predators are hunting you, the kind of fear and inevitability. I wanted to capture that as the essence of this demon lord. So I hope that comes across. Anyway, in my homebrew, I noted that all demon lords have a description of their lair and various lair actions. Also in common is that they have the ability to inspire a unique kind of madness. We have their stat block, and there are certain consistencies there. Things like their immunities and resistances, their skills and their senses, their languages all seem to be roughly about the same. They're all spellcasters, whether they use them a lot like Orcus or not very much like Yeenoghu. They have a series of horrific actions and attacks, usually a unique weapon weapon, and some legendary actions. So to try and get into the feel of this creature, I decided to write its lair first. I said that Miska the Wolf Spider's lair occupies a dark and structurally incomprehensible cave system coated in a thick blanket of fibrous webbing, known as the Void Nest. Now, that's not canon, I just don't know where Miska lives, and all of the other lairs seem to have their own spooky name in the abyss, so I thought the Void Nest seemed like a incomprehensible, spacey, dark, terrifying, cobweb-encrusted cave system, so the Void Nest it is for here. Here, the laws of gravity no longer apply, and winding pathways descend into ever-darkening depths. All the while, each footstep vibrates uncountable threads of silk, all leading to Miska's throne of fear. Here, Miska delights in sowing new paths for captured mortals to explore, tempting them constantly with glimmers of hope of their escape and fending off and feeding off of their terror. Miska's lair is a dark and confusing place, filled with spiders and the howls of packs of wolves. Without the gift of dark vision, mortals are left to wander, hearing the scuttling of insect-like feet and snorts of bloodthirsty predators always too close to find any rest. So lair actions tend to operate fairly similarly. I've said that on initiative count 20, losing initiative ties, Miska the Wolf Spider can take a lair action to cause one of the following effects. It can't use the same effect 2 rounds in a row, and this is all entirely separate to the actions that it gets to make on its turn. I said firstly that Miska can call forth a legion of demonic spiders to rise from the ground or descend from the ceiling. As I've said, this kind of twisting network and pathways don't seem to apply to gravity, so it doesn't really matter which one of those you use. I feel like descending from whatever counts as a ceiling in this horrible world is slightly creepier, but if you want them to rise from the ground and be more sort of undead-like, then that could be quite an interesting flavour as well. And with that nature of rising from the ground, I looked to liches for what seemed like a fun attack here, being swarmed by the ghosts of those who have died in a lich's lair, and essentially transposed that over here into Miska's attack with a legion of spiders. And I said that these spiders attack one creature that Miska can see within 60 feet of it. The target needs to succeed on a dexterity saving throw, and on a failed save, the creature takes 68 piercing damage. That's 6d8, not 68, and is restrained by a coating of webbing. The creature can use an action to cut the webs itself, or an ally can do so if they can reach, which ends the restrained condition. Next, I've said that until the next initiative count 20, all arachnids within the lair gain the Pack Tactics special rule, granting them advantage on attack rolls against the creature if at least one of the creature's allies is within 5 feet of the enemy and the ally isn't incapacitated. I said that all wolves within the lair gain the Spider Climb feature, allowing them to climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check. And that's because, with the name of this creature being the Wolf Spider, and due to its description being literally a fusion of wolves and spiders, I felt like this creature, this demon lord, would have some kind of influence over the creatures within its realm, those wolves and spiders that are predatory within its massive web, and I thought they would become sort of wolf-spider fusions, so all arachnids would gain the Pack Tactics rule, which is unique to lupine enemies in D&D, acting more as a group, and I thought that wolves would be great to be able to run upside down and catch people flying all over the place, acting far more like arachnids. I also thought that this needs to be mystifying, disorientating, and terrifying, so I'm concerned that this might be a tiny bit too powerful. I said that Miska casts the web spell centered on every creature of its choice in the lair. It needn't see each one, but it must be aware that the individual it's targeting is in the lair. Most demon lords seem to have some ability like this, where as long as they're aware of somebody in their domain, they can cast spells on one or all of them. And I thought being able to hinder someone's progress by reshaping this web network by casting huge amounts of webs all over other creatures, either its own allies, like spiders, which can easily climb through them with their ability to not be confined by webbing and not be hindered, or to simply gum up adventurers. Now, for an extra bit of flavour, all of these lair things tend to carry what's called regional effect that tell us a little bit more about how this creature's presence simply influences environment if it is in the material plane. Demon lords are so horrifying that their mere presence literally causes their region of the abyss to bleed into reality. So I've said that the region containing Miska the Wolf Spider's lair is warped by their magic, creating one or more of the following effect. The area within 6 miles of the lair becomes overpopulated with arachnids, wolves, and other pack animals. Simple enough. I've said that arachnids within 1 mile of the lair become far more hostile and violent, but more social, choosing to hunt in large packs rather than individually. Spiders are famously isolation-based creatures. They don't really like to hang out in groups because they're quite cannibalistic and things like that. It's not very safe for them outside of mating. I mean, sometimes it's not safe when they do mate. Black widows, for example, tend to devour their mates. But yeah, I thought inspiring the wolf aspect here in spiders, maybe they do become pack animals here. I've said that if a humanoid spends 1 hour within 1 mile of the lair, they have a chance to go mad. And this is the same with all demon lords. If you fail a wisdom saving throw, there's a chance that you'll go mad, specifically via the rules set out the madness of the individual demon lord. And to that end, I've written my own table, just like all the other demon lords, that says that if a creature goes mad in Miska's lair or within line of sight of the demon lord, you need to roll on this madness table. You need to roll a d100, and then you gain a certain madness floor, and this floor lasts until you are cured of this madness. I've said that if you roll a 1 to 20, then you gain the floor that says, daylight offends me, I need to stay in complete darkness to feel safe. It's like a spider. 21 to 40 gives you, I only have an appetite for live, wriggling meat. Furthermore, I need to liquefy the insides and drink them raw. Ugh. But that is how spiders eat, so I figured that you would get more spider-like. You want a meat shake for your meal rather than solid food. At 41 to 60, I said that anything with fewer than 8 limbs is an abomination. Even myself, I will only let them touch me as food. So a little bit of self-disgust, a little bit of hesitation and fear, even your own allies as lesser beings. At 61 to 80, I kind of furthered that same idea, saying the only way I can be happy is if I have more limbs. I must collect more and attach them to me somehow. So in a rather grim twist of fate, not satisfied with considering yourself an abomination, this next step causes you to harvest limbs from those you've killed, or maybe specifically go out of your way to kill people to harvest their limbs. Maybe make them out of wood. Maybe you're a prosthetic hoarder at this point. You want them to attach them to either your clothes or even magically or medically attach them to your body. At 81 to 100, worst of all, I decided to go for a classic one here. We've seen this in movies and TV shows. It's a cliche at this point, but still definitely worth putting down in the madness of a spider demon. I've said, my skin is infested with spider eggs. They constantly scratch and itch, wriggling under my flesh. I need to peel away the layers so that I can get rid of them all. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Definitely don't roll too high on that D100. And then we actually get the stats for the creature themselves. And I don't think this will surprise too many people. I've said that this is a huge fiend. All stats that I could find indicated that this demon lord was huge, which not all demon lords need to be. Some of them are large, some of them are medium-sized, but almost all the homebrew I found placed this thing as a huge fiend. So in case I'm missing anything out, I thought I would also make this thing massive. It's chaotic evil, like all demons. It's got 22 natural armor, because this thing is covered in chitinous plating. It's got a bonkers amount of health, and it can move at 50 feet, being massive, or climb 50 feet, because, as we'll learn in a second, like a normal spider, it has spider climb. And all demon lords, roughly speaking, have the same sort of stats. Not entirely. Universally, their charisma seems to be 25, giving them a +7. Their strength seems to be generally pretty high. Most of them, including Miska, have 29 strength, which gives them a +9. And usually their dexterity is a little bit lower, but I still wanted this creature to be quite nimble, so I thought I would give it 20 dex, +5. It has 26 constitution, +8, because this thing used to lead a huge army of demons, so it's probably used to conflict and being quite tough. But I said that its flaws, if it has any, are its intelligence and wisdom, which are 14 and 17 respectively. So reading books isn't this thing's strength. It's still better than the average human, but all creatures need a hole in their stats somewhere for you to exploit. I said that it's very, very good at stealth. It's got a +13 in stealth and a +11 in perception. And then, like I say, most demon lords have damage resistances of the same kind, like resistance to fire and cold and lightning, damage immunity to poison, because poison is going to play a big part in this creature, but also bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. They're also all immune to being charmed, exhausted, frightened, or poisoned. They also all have true sight up to 120 feet, and they know all languages and are all telepathic up to 120 feet. So, simple enough. Just the same as all other demon lords there. Now, they're all spellcasters as well, and I thought that seemed very fitting for this creature, but I didn't want this to be hugely, massively destructive. So, using charisma as its innate spellcasting ability, as we would expect, I said that this creature can cast the following spells requiring no material components. At will, it can cast darkness. Again, I want fear to be a big part of this. Detect magic. They all seem to be able to detect magic. invisibility, they can pretty much all go invisible, and web, of course, because we want this thing to be able to cast web whenever it wants to. I've said that also it can cast Insect Plague, which is usually a Plague of Locusts. It's a druid spell that swarms someone in a huge cloud of horrific insects, but I've specified that this produces only spiders rather than flying insects, and that it casts this at a 7th level, aka dealing a swarm of 60-10 damage. I said that 3 times a day each, it can cast Dispel Magic, Fear, Telekinesis, or Wall of Thorns, kind of presuming that Wall of Thorns would be reflavoured into a webbing wall, but it seemed appropriate. And once a day, it can cast Abidalzim's Horrid Wilting, which, if you're not familiar, is a spell which drains all the moisture out of someone, which made me think of how a spider drinks the insides of a creature. They web things up, they pierce the flesh, liquefy the insides, and then drink them, and that kind of seemed appropriate here. So a spell that does something very similar seems good. All Demon Lords have a legendary resistance, granting them the ability to instantly succeed on 3 saving throws of their choice that they fail, and they also have magic resistance, and their attacks are always magical for the sake of resistances. I said that with this thing having the body of a spider, that it can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings, without needing to make an ability check, as per Spider Climb, and also, just like Etacaps, I said that while in contact with a web, Miska knows exactly the location of any creature in contact with that same web. So while it's in its nest, it will always know everything that's going on. I've also said that as a web walker, Miska ignores movement restrictions caused by webbing, because it wouldn't be very, very good if a spider was also restricted by the webbing that it produces, would it? Now, in terms of its attacks, I gave it a bite, a claw, and a special web-based move. Its bite attack is very, very similar to a Pit Fiend's, causing 3d8 plus 9 piercing damage, and causing the creature that is bitten to make a Constitution saving throw or become poisoned. And while poisoned in this way, the target can't regain hit points and takes an additional 66 poison damage at the start of each of its turns. And the poisoned target can make a repeat attempt at this saving throw, which will end the effect on a success. Its special web attack is a ranged attack, which deals 3d8 plus 9 acid damage as corrosive webbing is sprayed on a target. And this web attack is called Web Coffin, because I wanted this web attack to kind of consume someone as if they were being digested or swallowed by something like a Remoraise or a purple worm. So I've said that this web tightens around people, blinding and restraining them and covering them against effects from outside this horrible web coffin, and the corrosiveness of this acidic web deals 66 acid damage at the start of each of Miska's turn, unless the coffin is broken by taking 30 damage from the inside or 30 damage from the outside of it. But I've also said that the creature inside can repeat their saving throw to try and escape. Now, importantly, the description of this creature constantly mentioned that regardless of how many legs this thing has, it has 4 arms. So I wanted to give it a claw attack, but more importantly, I wanted to give it a multi-attack where it attacks with each of these 4 arms. This also seemed to be something that was very prevalent in a lot of the homebrew that I was reading. So 4 attacks seemed like a good idea, but I wanted them to be specifically with its claws. I said that the claw attack is a plus 17 to hit. It deals 3d8 plus 9 piercing damage, and if the attack hits, it can cause an additional effect at Miska's choice or at random, very similar to Yinogu's Spiked Mace. I said that it could choose to deal extra damage with its claw, dealing an extra 3d6 poison damage, or it can inject a series of other poisons into people with its claws, saying that if they fail a Constitution saving throw, they might be paralyzed. If they fail a Wisdom saving throw, they might be affected by the Confusion spell, or a different Wisdom saving throw might find them being affected by the Fear spell until the end of Miska's next turn. And finally, we have the legendary actions, everyone's favourite part of legendary creatures. They get 3 legendary actions, choosing from one of the options that I've outlined, and they get to use those actions at the end of another creature's turn, and these legendary actions refresh. So I've given it 3 moves, as is standard: Sting, Terror, or Web Graveyard. Sting allows Miska to make 1 claw attack of its choice. Terror causes all creatures within 20 feet of Miska to make a Wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, the creature is frightened until the start of its next turn, which might open Miska up to laying various traps, or at least holding out for attacks of opportunity when things try and flee from it. Finally, at the cost of 3, all 3 legendary actions, I've said that Web Graveyard is an ability that allows Miska to make a web coffin attack against each creature within 10 feet of it. That swallowing attack, essentially. It just encases everyone within 10 feet in a huge cocoon of webbing. But that is quite powerful, so I decided that I should take up all legendary actions. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Miska the Wolf Spider. I hope you enjoyed what I ended up drawing, and I hope you enjoyed the homebrew that I came up with here. I hope you find it useful if you do end up using it. Again, in case you missed that part, the link to this homebrew is in the description box or on my website under the homebrew tab, so you're very, very free to use that in your campaigns. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a little thumbs up, a little like down below, maybe favourite this video and share it with any communities you might be a part of, because it's only with your help that we can grow this channel, and I really, really appreciate that. If you want to support the channel in a more personal way and tip me for making these videos for you every single week, then I'd like to direct your attention to Patreon, because as well as helping me to make these videos, your support allows you to get in on the voting action to have more control over which videos you see from me. And also at various different backer levels, I like to send a thank you your way with various rewards, including a copy of every illustration that I do each month, including this one-on-one chats, or private live streams. But yeah. So until next time, thank you so much for joining me. Beware the creepy crawlies in the night, because they apparently might have the heads of wolves. And until next week, happy monster hunting.